Let me ask you something. Who taught us that saying no makes us a bad person? Welcome to Life and Love by Design. I'm life and relationship coach Odette Coronel. But somehow that's exactly what so many of us learned. We learned that good women don't disappoint people. Good wives, don't ask for too much. Good mothers always put everyone else's needs first. Good daughters don't rock the boat. Good employees never complain. And we stopped asking one really important question, which is, what do I need? We became so busy just making sure that everyone else is okay. But today, I want to challenge that belief because I don't think that boundaries damage relationships. I actually think that the absence of boundaries is what damages relationships. And by the end of this episode, I hope that you're going to see that no is not rejection. And I want you to see it for what it really is. And it's one of the most honest and loving words that you can ever say. And I want you to remember that every yes is also a no. The question is, who are you saying no to? Now, I want you to use your imagination for a minute and play with me. Imagine that you're in your dream house and it's beautiful. It feels safe. It has big windows. It has an inviting front porch. It's got flowers and a beautiful garden. Maybe your kids are playing outside, your friends come over. But there's one thing missing, a fence. Now, does that mean that your neighbors are bad? No. Does it mean that people are trying to hurt you? No, of course not. It simply means that nobody knows where your property begins and where it ends. That's it. That's exactly what boundaries are. Not walls, not weapons, not punishment. It's just clarity. I used to love watching Dirty Dancing. And remember that scene where Johnny tells Baby, this is my dance space. That's your dance space. And then Baby says it to Johnny. It wasn't because he was trying to be mean to her. He was just establishing the boundaries in their dance space so that the dance can come out beautifully. So let me tell you another story. Think about a wife who always says yes. She cooks, she cleans, she works, she handles the kids. She never asks for help. And then one day she explodes because somebody left a sock on the floor. Was it really about the socks? No, of course not. It's about the 500 unspoken boundaries. Or imagine a husband who never says how he feels. He's just quiet. He really just wants to avoid conflict. He wants peace. But as the years go by, his wife says, I feel like I don't even know you. And it's because his silence became distance. So rather than establishing boundaries, he just remained silent and allowed that distance to form. Or imagine if you had adult children, or like I have 3 adult children. And imagine if the mom, shows up unannounced all the time, or, criticizes their parenting all the time. And the daughter maybe feels guilty to say anything or to say no, or to tell the mom, stop showing up unannounced. What happens is then the relationship becomes resentful because the daughter didn't set those boundaries. None of these people really needed better communication at first. What they needed was to be able to establish clear boundaries. And I want to talk about some myths about boundaries. The first myth is that boundaries push people away. In reality, healthy boundaries, they make closeness possible. They're not pushing people away. They create the conditions so that you can have a healthy adult relationship. The second myth is that boundaries are selfish. But the reality is that resentment is much more selfish because you didn't have the courage to speak up and establish boundaries. The third myth is if they loved me, then they would know. The reality is that no, people do not read your mind. You have to set the boundaries so that people understand what's acceptable and what's not. So what actually is a boundary? A boundary is not saying, you need to stop yelling. That's actually a request. A boundary is, if you keep yelling at me, I'm going to end the conversation until we can both speak respectfully. Do you see the difference? The boundary tells you what you are going to do. Again, think about the fence. Walls keep everyone out, but fences let the right people in. The gate opens, the gate closes. That's how a healthy relationship works. People know where you end and where they begin. So, I want to show you a quick, simple framework to follow in order for you to be able to set boundaries. The first thing is be clear on what matters to you. What are your values? What are your non negotiables? How do you want to be treated? That's the first step. The second step is I want you to notice where resentment starts to come up for you, because that's a clue that you need to establish a boundary. So when you notice that resentment comes up, decide, what is okay and what's not. Next, I want you to communicate early, not after 6 months, because then resentment is going to really build up. Next, I want you to be calm. No long speeches. Say no. No is actually a loving word. No is not a bad word. I know there are a lot of parents nowadays, a lot of young parents that don't want to use the word no with their children. And my opinion, now I have 3 adult children, and remember, wisdom comes in hindsight. So I do have the hindsight. And I don't think that's the right thing to do, because no is actually a very empowering word. It teaches children boundaries. So you're setting boundaries for your children by using the word no. And then you're also teaching your children how to set boundaries themselves by saying no. They don't have to be nice about it. If someone is invading their personal space or they're feeling uncomfortable, it's okay to say no. It's not a bad word. It's a neutral word. It's teaching people what's okay and what's not okay. So again, be calm, no long speeches. You say what you will do if they continue with the behavior. And then the next part is really important, is follow through. You've got to follow through, because this is where trust is built. If you say, if you do this, then I'm going to, walk out and I'll come back when you're calm. If you don't actually, walk out and come back when they're calm, then they're not going to believe you. They're going to keep pushing, and the behavior is going to continue. So you have to make sure that you actually follow through with your boundary. You have to respect your own boundary. And then the last thing that I want you to remember is expect discomfort. It's not going to feel great. You've spent years training people how to treat you, and now they're learning new rules. They're not going to like it. They might be disappointed, and it's not going to feel good. You're going to feel uncomfortable, but a little bit of discomfort now is going to actually strengthen your relationship in the long run. So it's worth feeling this discomfort for the sake of the relationship. So imagine that you are with your husband and you say, I love spending time with you, but I also need at least one night a week so that I can recharge. Or with your children, you can say, I'm happy to help you with your homework, or if you've got adult children, I'm happy to step in and help you, or babysit if you've got grandkids, but I'm not going to be available after 8 o'clock because I need to go to bed and get my sleep. Whatever it is, just, make sure that you are clear on what your boundary is so that you don't feel resentful and so that they have an opportunity to respect it. Or if you have a friend that wants to talk on the phone for an hour every day, you can say, I don't have an hour to talk, but I've got 10 minutes. Or if you're at work, when it comes to work, you have to make sure that you establish boundaries. So many people, they receive emails 24 hours a day. You can let your boss or your coworkers or your employees or your clients know, I only respond to emails, during business hours. After 6 o'clock, I'm not responding to emails. That's a boundary, and people know what to expect. Or if your parents, they want you to come over for Sunday dinner every single week and you really, don't want to, or you can't, you can say, I can't make it every single Sunday, but I can come once a month. Whatever it is that works for you. Again, they may not like it in the beginning, but they're going to be clear and they're going to know what to expect and they're going to get used to it. And that's going to prevent resentment from building. So let's go back to that fence again. Remember, a fence does not mean that your neighbors aren't welcome. It simply lets everybody know where the garden begins, where to walk, where not to step. It protects what you have worked so hard to grow. I'll give you another example. There's a lot of people who have a boundary that when you walk into their house, you take off your shoes at the door. That's a decent boundary because they want to keep their house clean, and the shoes, we bring in a lot of germs from outdoors. Now, I don't have that boundary with everyone that comes to visit my home, but I do have that boundary with my immediate family. So my immediate family, we come in through the garage and I make sure that we take off our shoes in the mudroom and we put on our slippers. And they're slippers that are only used for inside the house. They're not like the Uggs that you wear outdoors. These are only for inside the house. And my family respects that. My daughter's in the city all the time. She's taking the subway, lots of germs. My husband, everybody has, germs from work and stuff like that. So that's a boundary that people understand. It's clear and they respect. Again, it's not because I think they're doing anything wrong. It's because I want to keep the house clean. Boundaries protect your peace. They protect your marriage, actually. It protects your relationship with your family and your identity. It actually strengthens these relationships. That's what boundaries do. And yes, people who love you, they don't always like boundaries, but healthy people and healthy relationships, they will learn to respect them. And if someone only loves the version of you with no boundaries, then that's not love. That's access. They just want access to you. It's about what you can do for them. Your job is not to build a wall around your heart. It's to build a fence around your life with gates that open intentionally and that close respectfully and protect what matters most. So if this episode resonated with you and if you want some support establishing boundaries in your relationships, this is the kind of work that I do with my clients. Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast, like the episode, share it with someone that needs to hear it, and send me an email, lifecoach@odettecorridell.com, and we can set up a time to chat. And until next time, remember that your life and your love are yours to design. If today's episode described you or your relationship, then this is your moment. You don't need more information. You need a new way of living, choosing, and relating. And that's the work I do with individuals and couples. If you're ready to stop repeating the same patterns and start designing your life and relationships intentionally, visit the link in the show notes and book a complimentary relationship and life audit. Remember, your life and your love are yours to design.